This is an entirely new book. Not one recipe per page. It's how many recipes?
It's 1,000 plus.
I thought it was. I was going to say that, and I thought I was going to be completely wrong. It's a remarkable number of recipes that are essentially from scratch, but from scratch in an extremely careful, historically oriented way that keeps the modern cook in mind. And I'm going to ask Amanda, and let me just tell you Amanda's own ability and history to have done this. Amanda skyrocketed. I mean, I don't even know where you were before the Times. You went like straight to the Times. Where did you go from our class together at Radcliffe?
All right, so we back because Corby is being modest. I mean, Corby is very much responsible for getting me into food writing because at the time I was in college and I was really kind of like bumbling around, not really sure what I wanted to do. And so I had written a letter to my favorite chef in Boston and asked if I could work in her restaurant. And then I sort of happened upon this class at this like sort of night course at Radcliffe. And there in my class is Corby from the Atlantic and Cheryl Julian from the Boston Globe. And two of the best food writers around. And it was really the first time I had sort of seen that, oh, like, I read Molly O'Neill and I read all of these people, but I had never sort of made the connection of how you could actually become a food writer. And so Corby, during the course of that class, said, I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I graduated, and he just kept saying, you got to go to Europe, and you've got to cook there, and you've got to just get some hands-on experience. And so I took your advice, and that's what I did. I went to Europe, and I cooked there for 3 years. And
she wrote a beautiful book based on it, which is The Cook in the Garden. What is it?
The Cook in the Garden, yeah.
Good. It's like one of those stress tests. Remember that. She cooked with Anne Willan,
yeah.
Who had started La Varenne cooking school in Paris. But more than that, Amanda was way ahead of her time in actually cooking with the seasons and understanding the connection between farm and table. And I say farm and table because everybody knows that phrase right now. Farm to table is like really fashionable. But when Amanda wrote this and called it, farm to table didn't exist, nobody knew of this, and the idea of saying cook and garden still seemed awfully quaint because gardens meant ladies in straw hats and flowers. It didn't mean actually growing things that you then took into the kitchen and you helped. It helped you understand the rhythm of the seasons.
Yeah. And
Amanda wrote it, and many of us just knew that this was a voice we would always be listening to. So you completely came into your own with that book, and then you went to the Times.
Yeah, I actually got a call from the Times. I pitched everybody and got rejected by everyone. And I was actually moving to Los Angeles because I thought, well, because I was at the time living after Europe, I had moved back to my mom's house in the woods in Pennsylvania, and I thought, well, I'm probably not going to get much freelance work here. So I decided to move to LA, and I got a call from this editor at the New York Times, and it was a Florida phone number. So I just thought it was like a prank call or something, and I almost didn't return it, but it turned out that it was actually an editor, it was really lucky timing because it was long ago when it was a big change for the New York Times. They were going from black and white, I don't know if you remember this was 1997. They were moving the paper from black and white to color, and it was like this huge kind of cultural shift for the Times. So they were expanding, and they were also expanding all of their sections, and they were building what they now call the dining section.